Are we? Oh, okay. Hi, everyone. Well, thank you for joining this theater today. Hope you're all here ready to learn about the sexy subject of data validation and validating tech stuff. So my name's Mike, and about 10 years ago, I was a digital analyst at a small company called Tesco. And like all small companies, well, starting small, they grew big, they got complicated, and they had a website, and then they had an optimization team, then an analytics team, which I was part of. And over time, the whole digital tech stack just grows and grows. And it gets complicated, and things go wrong. And just to talk you through, sometimes data would go missing. The web development team would just change a website, or add a new page, or replace a page without telling anyone. And all the Adobe analytics would just fall off, fail. And then when I was in a reporting analyst role, affectionately termed as a reporting monkey, you would just run into these issues without being told ahead of time. So you're like, oh, I'm trying to do my year-on-year growth reporting, and suddenly growth is 0. Actually, minus infinity, because the tracking went to 0. And then in the last kind of... OK. Technical issues, but he told us to power through. And so then after that, for the last 9 years, I've actually been working in digital data and digital analytics QA, so quality assurance. And it's a topic that I feel pretty much everyone in this entire space is probably taking for granted. It's QA. So today I'm going to talk you through some of the, the problems that I've faced in my career, I've seen in my career, the problems I've helped our customers solve, and also talk you through kind of a very simplified example using a Google tech stack as our kind of subject. So, what do we do? So that's a bit about me. I work for an organization called ObservePoint. We're about 16 years old, and we've been helping organizations of all sizes, so small startups, all the way up to, we're talking about Disney, Marvel, Goldman Sachs, helping all these organizations ensure that across maybe hundreds of websites, millions of pages, the data, the optimization, the personalization is all actually set up correctly. Because otherwise, they're just throwing money down the drain. So, let's talk about what I hope you're all familiar with, is the marketing funnel. And the way our system works is that, well, you'll know what a marketing funnel is, I hope. So you want to attract your customers. At each stage, you want to bring them in closer to becoming from a lead to a paying customer. So it might be an email campaign. You might reach out to them via social. And so you want them to click on that ad, and you optimize that by making great quality content. Really good copy, really putting across what your products can do to help them. So you move them one stage down the funnel. And ultimately, you want them to convert, and that's become a paying customer. But you might have to optimize their bounce rate first. You might have to optimize your page speed so that they can click through and not get bored and exit the page. So that's all a marketing funnel. And I spoke of optimization at every stage there is the optimization. Email open rates, optimizing those. Bounce rates, optimizing those. Payment, how many customers get through a payment form? For those of a certain age, you'll remember filling in like 5 pages of forms to get something delivered. Now it's, single click. So these are all things that need to be optimized, but only if you've got the right data. And so talking about your go-to-market channels, as I mentioned, email, social, banner ads, things like that, this all is data that's being collected, but no one's really checking it. And the reason is, it's boring, right? I'm going to get asked for a show of hands. Is anybody manually checking that their data is correct? 1, OK. 2, 3, OK. Is anybody putting it off because they know it's too much work? The rest of you. OK, great. So who feels that their processes are complete and foolproof? Did you put your hand up there? No, just scratch your nose, yeah? OK. Cool, yeah. And so the reason people don't do data properly, QA properly, is because it's boring and it's time-consuming. So these are the results. So these are just sort of abstract feelings in organizations. So first one, I can't attribute the conversions to a marketing channel, but I know I've got to spend more money because I know marketing works, right? So you just end up throwing, you think, oh, we don't know which channel's the best, but we're just going to throw more money into all of them, about the same proportionately, so that hopefully we'll get more revenue. Great idea. Second one, your organization spends maybe a lot of cash on an analytics team. Technologies like Adobe Analytics can cost $1 million or $2 million quid a year. You've got people to man those tools, but then over time, the leadership teams start taking the results for granted. And all they remember is the problems. And that was what I faced when I was at Tesco. I would be, we'd be looking at, you do 5 good weeks of reporting, and then just after the dev team made a release, something goes wrong, and then the leadership team goes, oh, I don't actually trust the data because I know there was a problem 4 weeks ago, or I know there was a problem 2 months ago. They remember that, but they kind of assume that everything else, they kind of forget about it. And so over time, what happens is the trust in the organization goes down. They see data as purely a cost, and not just data, the whole digital program. They see purely as a cost center, and they don't remember that the 1%, the half% incremental improvements. And so ultimately, if they get seduced by the next big thing, they think, okay, right, we've got our digital setup solid and solid. We're going to now migrate more investment to AI. We've got to be seen to be doing something, right? Give me some AI. Give the marketing team something to market about AI. And so that's what happens. So the budget moves away. And that's not a problem. That's just innovation. But that's like, I wouldn't say it's like trying to run before you can walk. It's more like trying to climb Mount Everest before you can walk. I don't think there are many people in this room who really know what they're getting into with AI. I certainly don't. But there's a lot of money going into that, and the foundations are definitely data, right? Who remembers a few years ago when I think it was Microsoft released a LinkedIn bot that was called Tay, and it learned from it was Twitter. So maybe it learned from tweets. It became a racist homophobe because that was what it was learning from. So getting your data correct is pretty important. So moving away from data quality, the title was your data governance, but also compliance. Where does compliance come into this? Well, just like your digital marketing tags, digital analytics tags, a lot of your website requirements, like cookie banners, GDPR compliance, these things are based on a technology that you're probably paying for or getting for free, which might be worse. And these are supposed to control what happens when your customer accepts or declines cookies. So what happens if you take it for granted that it's working, and actually it's not? Your customer declines cookies, you're still tracking them with Facebook, they're still receiving those marketing ads on Twitter as well. So then actually, you're taking it for granted that you're in compliance with these laws, but you're not. One day you get a letter from the ICO saying you've got 30 days, otherwise we're going to give you a rap on the knuckles. So why is this happening? Why is this happening across the industry? Why is it that in my 9 years at ObservePoint and the last 5 years facing up the GDPR, why have I seen 30% of cookie consent banners not working? People paying for all of these banners and literally they do nothing. Well, here are 2 ladies on a production line for chocolate bars. It's their job to take a couple of chocolate bars from each batch, put them through a battery of tests, the taste test, right? Whether there's any contaminants. Here's a bunch of lucky guys. They are testing, I think they're testing World of Tanks. So it's just a first-person tank shooting game. My brother plays this a lot. But they're testing it. They're testing it for bugs. They're testing it works. They're testing there are no problems where one person can cheat and just instant win. Here's an unlucky lady, right? There are actually female test crash dummies. And if you want the proper name for a test dummy, it's an anthropomorphical test device. So she's referred to as a device. And here's another anthropomorphical device testing his new Cybertruck. So Elon Musk testing, I think he smashed it with a sledgehammer, and then he threw then he smashed a glass. And that wasn't supposed to happen. But the glass is still standing, so it's not quite shattered through. So why am I showing you these? It's to make a point, right? From chocolate bars worth pennies up to billionaires, from software engineers through to auto engineers, they all invest in systematic quality assurance. And so that is, I'm actually going to talk you through how ObservePoint can help you do systematic quality assurance using, again, as I said, Google Tech Stack as an idealized example. So before we go into that, let's talk you through some of the benefits that you could gain. So correct data, I've already kind of, hope that's self-evident, but what are the results? Improved marketing attribution. That means you can optimize your marketing spend, get more revenue for the same marketing budget, or spend less marketing budget to get the same revenue. That's efficiency, it's optimization. Page speed. What we often find with many people that we start working with is that basically they've got a website full of old stuff. Stuff that's bloating their website, stuff they don't need. We're talking about Google Plus tags. We're talking about Google Classic Analytics. So the Google Analytics from 2005, it's been replaced twice, right? So getting rid of all this bloat will make your page load faster, and we all know that fast-loading pages convert customers better. It's a better customer experience. And all that, obviously, it all adds up to the bottom line. So about efficiency, cost efficiencies, page improved conversions. Fourth bullet point, regulations again. So it's the risk of fines, GDPR, 4% of annual turnover, not profit, turnover. So if your profit margins are less than 4%, a GDPR fine could simply wipe you out. And as I mentioned before, data science. Let's get those foundations right before we start to climb Everest. So what are we looking at here? This is ObservePoint's tag presence report. ObservePoint has the capability to crawl any website and scan hundreds or even thousands of pages. And what do we look for? Well, one of the things we can look for is what technologies have been found on your website. And this gives you a lot of information that you might have already taken for granted. And so when I look at this, I see already a few problems. Well, a few good things and a few problems. Firstly, we can see here, there is Google Analytics 4. And that is the latest G8. That's fine. It's on 100% of the scanned pages. So that's very good as well, right? Complete tracking. But there are actually 3 different data sets. So that could be 3 different accounts. So the question then becomes, I'm not saying it's right or wrong. The question then becomes, was that designed? Why are we collecting stuff 3 times? Why are we maybe paying for stuff 3 times? Who's got access, right? Is it commercially sensitive that someone could know, how much traffic I get, right? So that's what I'm looking at here. Secondly, Google Universal Analytics. So this was replaced by this 2 years ago, well, a year and a half ago. The deadline, the final deadline to get rid of this, well, the final deadline for this to become absolutely useless was about 4 months ago, 3 months ago. So the question becomes, why is it still there bloating my page? I don't know. Let's roll back another 10 years. This little character down here, this is the original Google Analytics Classic. So this was turned off in 2011. So I don't know why this is here either. So this website owner has not been looking after their web page. It's not been maintained. And when you don't maintain an asset, it goes down in value. You might not notice. You might still sell stuff on it. But ultimately, we're building up what we call tech debt. OK, now let's look at this one up here. Everyone, I hope, is familiar, or most of you are familiar with Google Tag Manager. 30 different GTM accounts. So we're going back to that same problem. How much bloat do we have on the website? And for tag management systems, importantly, how many people have the ability to read, write, edit, and publish? Remember, you could publish anything on GTM and cause a security issue or a fundamental the website isn't loading problem. So GTM is that is a large number. And if we dive into that, we actually see what those GTM containers are. So it looks like they've got one GTM container on the top, which is 100% of pages, but then they've got this, what we call this long tail of just GTM containers just floating around on the occasional page. OK, I'm just going to pop back to this one. I've got a phrase for this. I call this a GA museum, because it's actually got all of the Google Analytics exhibited for historical posterity. Cool. OK, so let's move on. The next thing I would check then is looking for duplicates. So Google Analytics charges you by the amount of data you send. So this is obviously it's kind of an obsolete example now, but this is the old the GA that's just been replaced. And there's actually 10 duplicates. So on 10 pages, they're actually sending the data twice. This has the problem of making your page views all wrong, and has a problem of costing you more money. So bit of a double whammy on duplicates. OK, so next thing, we're stepping away from the analytics and optimization and kind of starting to move into the compliance side of things. So in March, Google announced that everyone has to be on Google Consent Mode version 2. Otherwise, you're not allowed to basically send personalized ads. So we've been finding that many of our clients didn't get the memo. They actually didn't update to Consent Mode version 2. Their ROI on their marketing fell because they were switched to non-targeted ads. So one of the easiest things you can do with ObservePoint is simply look. So in the Google Analytics for actual the package of data that is sent from your website to the Google data centers, there are two key variables, GCS and GCD. And the value of these will tell Google whether you are consent mode enabled or not. So this website, consent mode is enabled, but consent has been declined. So the 00 means the customer has said no, no marketing, please. So Google now knows that, yes, they've got it set up correctly, and they're respecting the customer's wishes. So this is a very easy thing to check on a given page or two. But when you've got a large, complicated website, multi-brand, multi-platform potential, you might have a careers setup that's a third-party white label. You might have a blog or a forum that's a third-party setup. It can become hazardous to assume that you've done it right. OK. Next step in checking that you're in line with those consent requirements is checking that your consent management platform is actually hooked up correctly to your tag management system. If you had 30 tag management systems, you'd be in serious trouble. So we always recommend minimizing. But what this is it's a flow chart of what is loading what. So we're saying the website is loading Google Fonts, Google Tag Manager, no, sorry, Google Global Tag, Google, and 2 Google Tag Managers. And what you'll notice is that this Google Tag Manager doesn't load anything. And that's because it's effectively and correctly been blocked by the cookie consent management platform, which is here, OneTrust. However, this Google Tag Management system has not effectively been blocked. And so we can actually see there's some Bing, some Microsoft ads. There's some tracking of a mouse. There's a lot more Google tags loading more stuff to the left. My left, your right. We also see New Relic. So this is a tag that's not even in a tag management system. So we're kind of displaying a few issues here that can be caught out very nicely, can be spotted very nicely with a nice visualization like this. OK, moving on. Another one, related. A lot of content and marketing teams will embed YouTube videos in pages, and they won't be aware that they have to have a specific privacy setting when they embed those videos. So we can see, again, Google Tag Manager has been blocked. There should be no tags coming through because the customer has declined consent. But we do see what I consider to be a very strong red flag, that we have Google remarketing coming through. And that's because it's coming through a YouTube player. We've got plenty of time, I think. I think I'm pacing well, so plenty of time for photos. Oh, go on then. Awesome. OK, so I'm not rickrolling you. I'm showing you how to embed YouTube videos correctly for privacy enabled. Very, very simple. When you go to YouTube and there is the share video, enable privacy enhanced mode. So this will connect with the GCD and the GCS variables that I showed you before, and it will block any marketing if the website visitor has clicked those options. OK. So last thing, ObservePoint isn't just about your tags and your consent. Well, your tags. Consent also includes cookies. So the ability to see all of your cookies is actually one of the prerequisites. Well, knowing what all your cookies are is one of the prerequisites of setting up your cookie banner correctly. Otherwise, how do you know what to configure it to control, right? So ObservePoint gives you the full capability to scan your entire website for all the cookies that could possibly load so you can populate your CMP properly. Okay. Last few things. New features that we're really happy to announce today. Accessibility is a big thing that's coming up in the next year, actually. So the Americans with Disabilities Act and also the EU Disability Act have just been updated this year. Also, SEO will include accessibility requirements. And what we mean by that is making a website readable for visually impaired people and hard of hearing people as well. And remember, the internet is about 30 years old now. Internet users are getting older, so it's not surprising that the demand for larger fonts, better contrast is growing. So ObservePoint will help you at scale check the accessibility of your website across internationally recognized WCAG standards, and I'll give you tips on how to fix all that. Okay, so in summary, hopefully from today you've learned that you can rapidly check a lot of your different website requirements using an automated platform like ObservePoint. You can remove the cost, you can improve your website, bring down the friction of your customer experience. And we are exhibiting here today, so we're at booth E35. I'm a source somebody taking photos. If you want to get more in-depth, even a free consultation today, or over email, we'll follow up. We are just kind of diagonally in that way. How do I describe it? I'm not going to describe it. I'm just going to say diagonally that way. But we're a bright yellow booth. We've got a game and a ham for you to win as well. So try your luck and come along. OK, so I think I'm bang on time. Are there any questions? No questions? Excellent. OK, great. Well, in that case, thank you for listening, everybody. And yeah, I mean, I'll stick around until I get kicked out. So come and ask me questions one-to-one if you have any. Great. Thank you very much.